So hello team, good evening. I hope I'm audible to everyone. Welcome to the session on what's new in CCSP 2022. My name is Krish. About my profile, I've been working in the IT for the last 17 plus years on various domains, and I've been working in cloud for more than 12 years now. And I'm a consultant for a lot of companies worldwide. I help them migrate to the cloud platform, and I support them the process of adopting the cloud security strategy and deploying, choosing the proper solutions. And I also do a training as well. So I basically train students on the certification like CCSP, AWS security, cloud security governance, pen testing, etc. That's my profile. So if you want to know about my profile, you can always visit my LinkedIn team. This is my LinkedIn profile. So about the InfosecTrain, we are a cybersecurity training and consulting organization which is established on 2016, and we provide training for wide range of security certifications, including cloud security as well. And basically, all the instructors are certified and trained on multi domains with a hands-on industry experience. That's about it, team. So let's start now. To give you a start, team, the whole agenda of the session is like this. I want to discuss about, first of all, what exactly is a CCSP certification and what are the changes which is happening to the CCSP domains. Like for example, let's say when you go for a CCSP examination, as of now you have a curriculum. I'll explain that as well. Plus I will explain the changes which is happening to the CCSP domains also. Then I'll tell you the key strategies for preparing for the examination. This is the whole agenda we have. To start with, the CCSP is a certification by a body called as a ISC square. Actually, it's a combination of two organizations which they made them, which is called as the IC square and CSA. That is, IC square stands for International Information System Security Certification Consortium, and CSA stands for the Cloud Security Alliance. But now it's handled by the completely by the IC square. It's a non-profit organization which specialize in training and certification for the cybersecurity arcade, and they are providing a lot of certifications which is like CISSP, CCSP, etc. Okay, that's it. One of the most common certifications of the ISquare is basically what we call as a CCSP, or the Certified Cloud Security Professional. So before I go to the CCSP certification strategy, or before I tell you what are the key things you have to learn in the CCSP, first of all, I want to tell you what is the difference between the CCSP examination or CCSP certification and the routine, the cloud provider based certification. Like if you go for a AWS certification or a Azure certification, or let's say GCP. So I want to give you the difference between the CCSP and the other vendor specific certifications, and that itself is the first change or the first difference, team. When you go for a AWS certified or associate architects, or basically a professional security, or any certification by the AWS or Azure or GCP, that is something which is completely focused on the cloud provider. Like for example, if you go for a AWS certification, let's say if I'm going for the certification called as a AWS certified security specialty. Okay, if I go for a certification called as AWS certified security specialty, I am learning how to secure, what are the tools and solutions we can use to implement and secure the AWS cloud infrastructure. That's what we learn in that particular thing. So all these things are basically a vendor specific certifications. But when it comes to CCSP, it's more of a vendor neutral certification. CCSP is a vendor neutral certification. That is the first thing. And more than that, there is a major difference between these two certifications. Let's say when you work in an organization, okay, when you work in an organization, we have many professionals in the company. Like for example, we have a people in the company who is focusing on implementing AWS architecture, Azure architecture, doing the pen testing, doing the SOC operations, like that. Like the same way we have a technical people like this who is focusing on implementing things, there must be a role in the company called as a professional. Okay, we have a people which is basically called as a professionals, and the whole goal of this particular professionals, okay, is to ensure that all the activities which is done by the practitioners or basically the technical experts are aligned with the business requirements, are aligned with the organizational strategy. Like for example, let's say we have a AWS professional in the company who is trying to implement AWS technologies, or we have Azure professionals there. But how do I know that which is best for my organization, or how do I ensure that I'm able to manage the risk which is associated with this cloud transition, or how do I ensure that whatever cloud platform I'm moving for, how do I ensure that that movement is basically not bringing any risk to the business? Like this, there are many activities performed by a professional, or we can call it as a cloud security professional. Like he is the person who understands a lot of things. As a cloud security professional, he is the one who has to understand the uh, risk associated with the cloud platform, or basically the legal risk, technical risk, or tactical challenges. A lot of things they have to understand, and they have to come up with a solution in a proper way to ensure that the business is basically running properly. That is the need of a CCSP. Okay. And this about the certification team, it's basically from both the perspectives. You can, in this certification, we are not talking only about a cloud customer perspective. We are talking about a lot of things in a cloud service provider perspective as well. Okay, that's it. Now I will tell you what exactly is the examination pattern of CCSP. So in the latest updates from IC Square, what we have felt is that this examination is not having much changes regarding the time and all these things. The same time, like for example, previously the exam time was 3 years, and now also then after the revision as well, the exam time is still 3 years, and the number of questions and all the other things keep the same one only. Okay, that's it. There is no changes happening to this exam strategy and all, except the topics. The all the other information like the time of the exam cost, the number of questions, and all these things remain the same. Let's talk about the domain-wise overview of the examination. So as per the IC Square CCSP examination, okay, either if I go for the previous curriculum or the upcoming curriculum, the domains are all the same. Like for example, we have a 6 domains here. We can call the first is we have a cloud concepts, architecture and design. Then we have a cloud data security. Then we have a cloud platform and infra security. We have a cloud application security, cloud security operations, and legal risk and compliance. So the current curriculum and the upcoming curriculum are both are having the same kind of domain only. And the only difference is that the weightage is a bit modified. Like for example, for the instance, when you go for a cloud data security in the curriculum which is currently active, like the curriculum which is currently active in August 2019, this is the curriculum which is currently active. So as per that curriculum, this domain was actually 19 percentage, and the new curriculum which is going to change in this August 2022 is actually 20 percentage. They have increased one more percentage to the domain 2, that is a cloud data security. Okay, that is one change which we have in the exam, which is coming up, which is going to change in the August 2022. And the other domains remain the same. Only for this domain called as cloud security operations, they have in the August 2019 curriculum, it was actually 17 percentage, but now it is actually 16 percentage. Okay, so that is one thing, team. So these are the only two changes we have in the weightage of the domains. So in the first one, we have a cloud data security. Okay, there is a 1% increase, that is 20% of the examination is basically the cloud security, the domain 2. And for this domain 5, they have reduced 1%, and now it's actually like 16 percentage. Okay, that's it. So the next one is, now we'll discuss about what are the changes which is happening to the domain wise topics. Okay, first of all, I hope team you're able to see my browser screen properly. Please tell me if there is any challenge you're facing. Perfect. So in the domain 1 of the CCSP examination, okay, in the domain 1 of the CCSP examination, there are a few changes. Like this is a domain which is focusing on the cloud security fundamentals. Like this domain is basically focusing on the cloud basics, the cloud service models, and cloud encryption, cloud key management, and some kind of cloud security strategies and all these things. And this domain, which is called as a cloud concepts, architecture, and design, the first part is what we call as understanding the cloud computing concepts. So this domain remains unchanged in the domain uh, in the previous curriculum and the upcoming curriculum. This particular domain remains unchanged. That means they are talking about the cloud fundamentals. What exactly is a cloud platform? What are the key terminologies like orchestration, abstraction, and all these kind of things? And then the key characteristics of cloud computing. Like when you talk about cloud computing, as per the NIST, there are some 5 characteristics for the cloud computing that is always same in the upcoming exam and the current exam also. And there is a CCSP, I mean, the cloud computing roles and responsibilities, like what are the key roles in cloud computing. Okay, that's it. So anyway, these things are basically same in the existing curriculum and the upcoming curriculum. And the next one is team, we have something called as a describe the cloud reference architecture. So in this particular module in this domain, I have seen that there is a 2 more topics which is mostly added called as, or more like, more specifically added called as confidential computing and DevSecOps. I'll explain about this in a very simple way. When you say the word confidential computing team, I'll give an example. Let's assume that team, okay, normally what happens, normally when you basically go for a data, okay, the data is getting processed, right? Normally when the data is getting processed, okay, what basically happens is that whenever you want to process a data, whether the data is a encrypted data or normal data, what you have to do, first of all, the data must be loaded, or the data must be first of all loaded to the RAM of the computer, right? Like for example, let's say now you're opening the hard disk or a file in a hard disk or an application. What we do, team, we are actually opening the data, or we are opening the application or opening the data, and the data is basically loaded to the memory. So in the computer memory, team, in the computer RAM or the computer memory, will the data be in an encrypted state or unencrypted state? Tell me. When you load the data to a memory or RAM, will the data be in an encrypted state or unencrypted state? It will be in a unencrypted, exactly, it will be in an unencrypted state. So the problem is that, team, when the data is in an unencrypted state in a RAM, there can be a lot of threats which can has, like for example, there can be something like the memory dump attack or some kind of attack, side channel attack, some kind of attacks can happen. And basically what happens, an attacker may be able to get the access to the memory, and they will be able to get the data which is residing in the main memory or the data which is residing in the RAM. Okay, that is why there is a new technology called as a confidential computing is there in the market. So the confidential computing is a technology like your TPM, etc. The idea is that when you go for a confidential computing, they use a mechanism called as a TEE. Okay, that means trusted execution environment. Okay, in the confidential computing, they use a mechanism called as a TEE, or trusted execution environment. So basically what happens, team, whenever you load an application data for something, or whenever you load some application or a code for something, the application which is using that code or the application which is using that data only will be able to get access to the data. That means that whenever we basically have a data which is loaded to the memory, and when we are taking it for processing, what happens, team, only the people or only the entities which are authorized to access the data, or only the application which is authorized to access the data will be able to get access to it. That is what we call as a confidential computing. And how it can be beneficial in the cloud platform, team, I'll give an example. In the cloud, what is the biggest security challenge we are having? In the cloud platform, what is the biggest security challenge we are having? We are having something called as a multi-tenancy, right? Multi-tenancy, that means we are having, okay, multi-tenancy means we are having uh, an option where we are having multiple customers share the same
Yeah,
infrastructure.
yeah,
That's what we call as a yeah, exactly. So because of that reason, what happens, team, if you go for a confidential computing in the cloud platform, one customer's application is processing a data, and that will be only visible for that particular application. So it improves the isolation and make sure that this multi-tenancy attacks, the attacks which can happen on this multi-tenancy, can be avoided. That's why nowadays in the cloud computing also, the confidential computing is coming in picture. Homomorphic encryption is a different concept, which is almost similar to that, but it's a different concept. That is a concept where we are trying to process, or we are trying to modify the data or process the data while the data is in an encrypted state. So in the case of confidential computing, we are normally loading the data to the RAM and then to the CPU. But the thing is that the access to this RAM or the access to the CPU is only limited to that particular application, which is inside, or which is basically inside the trusted execution environment. Okay, that's it. That's what we call as a confidential computing team. And we have one more new topic. Even if I say it's a new topic team, it's very much important in the market now. We have something called as a DevSecOps. That's a very, very important concept, DevSecOps. Like DevOps, most people know what is a DevOps, right? Like I want to like many people say it's a culture and all, but still, to give you a very simple idea on DevOps, like I want to, from the process of developing an application, okay, yeah, I'll discuss that definitely. From the process of developing the application to pushing the application to a centralized repository, to then testing the application, to deploy it, like there are multiple steps, right? So I have a complete process to ensure that the whole process of application development goes in a more easier and smoother perspective. That is what we call as a DevOps, right? Like for example, we have a code. The code is basically then sent to a build server, and in turn it will be tested and then deployed and then provisioned, right? That is what we do in a DevOps. But ensuring the security of the code, ensuring the security of the code, or integrating the security in the DevOps cycle is what we call as a DevSecOps. Like for example, I want to integrate the security in the whole SDLC process while using DevOps is what we call as a DevSecOps. And that is one of the most demanding concept in the market now, because it is mandatory, because many companies, or almost every companies nowadays, is following DevOps tools, like a lot of DevOps tools and DevOps mechanisms they are using. So what happens, they want to make sure that they are able to effectively integrate security to the whole process of application development, to testing, to deployment, to provisioning. That is why we go for a DevSecOps. Okay. And doesn't mean that see, definitely not. Confidential computing means that it is not a replacement for encryption. That's the first word we have to keep in mind. When you say the word confidential computing, it is not a replacement for encryption. Why? Because whenever you are storing your data in a hard disk or a SSD, what is that? That is a data at rest. Or whenever you are sending some data, that is a data in motion. So in both the cases, it is mandatory for you to have an encryption. But team, do you have an effective encryption for data in use? Do we have an effective encryption strategy currently for data in use? See, now you are able to see this file, or let's say now an application is processing an open data. Do we have an encryption for that? No. That is why what we have a technology called as confidential computing developed. That means that there is an application we are working on, and the application is basically working inside something called as a trusted execution environment. Okay, and basically what happens, this particular trusted execution environment, it's a hardware chip actually. So based on that, the application code which is only authorized will be able to access. That is what we call as a confidential computing. Got it, team? And the other topics are routine topics, like the common topics, like the application capability, infrastructure, and all these things are very common. The same thing, there is no difference in the topics. But I felt, esteem, in the examination perspective, or basically in the when you learn this topic, to this is a bit more important, what I felt in the upcoming in the previous exams, from the feedback from many students and all, what I felt is that especially this privacy and this reversibility, the SLA, auditability, on these kind of things are more and more getting in hot demand. Okay, that's it. That's about the first two modules, team. The next one is we have something called as a cryptography, and the understand the security concepts relevant to cloud computing. So in that module also, okay, there is some changes, not say changes actually. So there is a module called as a identity and access control. Even if we are discussing this in the existing curriculum, they have more specifically specified this topic in this domain. That's all. It is definitely discussed in the previous session also, the previous things also, but in this particular thing, it's already, it's basically more specifically designed. Okay, that's it. Tim, just please give me a second. Please give me a second. Sorry for that, team. So now that is about the IAM. So IAM is a bit important topic for us because I have seen it in many in the exam. It's a guaranteed topics in the exam for sure, but now they have specified it as a separate topic. That's the only thing. And one more topic which they have specifically added is that security hygiene. So what is security hygiene? Like for example, when you go to a infrastructure, security is something which is always a very important concern, right? So there is a word called as a security hygiene. That means that you want to follow the proper best practices to ensure security in your infrastructure. That is basically what we call a security hygiene. Like for example, it can be anything. Like it can be like having a proper inventory, patching, like you must always follow a proper patching cycle and a proper configuration and patch management. Then we have a baselining. What is a baselining? Creating a proper baseline configuration for everything so that we are able to know what exactly is actually changing there. Then we have a log management. Log management is also an example for a security hygiene, how you are keeping your log files. So team, what happens if you miss your log files, or what happens if you remove your log files accidentally? If you have not properly deployed a logging solution, what will happen there, team? You will lose the accountability, right? You will lose the accountability. So basically what happens, you will not be able to know what is happening in your infrastructure. You may have a compliance issues, you may have a security issues, you may have a forensic challenges. So because of that reason, things like patching, baselining, log management, data management, and all these things are basically part of the security hygiene. That is also added in the new curriculum. Okay, that's it. So rest of the topics are almost similar. There is no difference in the rest of the topics, and they have added this separately, but still this is already covered in the topic, especially the zero trust model. Like what is a zero trust model, team? When you say the word zero trust model, it means that now you go to
To
an
allow
infrastructure.
for any communication basically.
Yeah,
By
you're
default,
allowing.
everything is blocked.
You allow everything, but you verify things. That's the only thing. Like for example, when you go for a zero trust model, to give you a simple example, now I am logging onto my cloud infrastructure. Usually what we do is we will enter the username and password, or we will have a MFA, and after that, in the next step, he is allowed. But here what happens is that you may have a lot of other security and verification mechanisms, and it's a continuous process, not a one time process. It's a continuous process. The whole goal is like you can trust a entity, but you must continuously verify it. Okay, that is the only thing which is more important, which I felt additionally. So that's about the module 3 in the domain 1. And then we have something called as a understand the design principles of cloud computing, team. In the design principles of cloud computing, which I felt is that there is a topic which they have specifically added called as BIA, but still this is basically there in the previous curriculum as well. So that is something which is always there. Only additional thing I felt is that they want you to discuss about the cloud design patterns. Like for example, when you go to a cloud computing platform, how do I basically define a proper strategy? There is a there's a lot of frameworks which is available in the market for designing the security in the cloud platform. That is what we call as a cloud design patterns. And finally, DevOps security. This is a really interesting anomaly, team. I have seen that many people ask me this doubt. So Krish, in the previous session, in the previous section, they have told us that there is a topic called as DevSecOps. And now they are telling us that there is a DevOps security. So are they both similar? The key difference is that, team, when you say DevSecOps, okay, when you say DevSecOps, you're talking about integrating security into the whole DevOps process, like the SDLC process. In the whole SDLC process happening, you are integrating security in the whole end-to-end process, what we call as a DevSecOps. And when you talk about the word called as a DevOps security, it is talking about securing the systems or securing the softwares or applications which is used for DevOps implementation. Okay, this is talking about the process. This is talking about the DevOps process security, like the whole SDLC process security this is talking about. And this is talking about the implementation, like when you implement a tool for DevOps like Jenkins, Git, Ansible, code commit, or maybe code build, or let's say Elastic Beanstalk, or any other tools like that. These particular things are properly, how to secure all these tools for using DevOps. That is what we call as a DevOps security. That is about the changes in domain 1, team, which there is not much changes in domain. This is the only change which I felt in domain 1. Any queries you have in this team? All good. Domain 1 is all good. Anyone? Any queries you have?
So any questions related to blockchain, AIA, IoT?
Definitely, yes. That is
I'm
basically,
missing.
yeah, it's already a predefined topic that will definitely be there. But still, there is only some key points you have to keep in mind on that topic. That's all. Like what I have felt is that this is the newly added topic, like confidential computing DevSecOps, but all the other things are predefined there in the domain, the existing curriculum also. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. But still, but the whole goal of them is for you to not to learn in depth about the data science or AI or blockchain, etc. The whole idea of IC Square, what I understood is that it's more about understanding how it can be useful in the cloud computing platform, or how these technologies are actually benefited in the cloud computing platform. That's more about a cloud inclination we have to learn about. Okay, that's it. Any other queries, team? All good? Domain one, all good? All of you? Perfect. So the next one is, team, we have something called as a domain 2 of the CCSP examination. So domain 2 is the domain where you have 1% increase in the weightage, like they have increased the weightage from 19 percentage to 20 percentage now in the upcoming curriculum, in the August curriculum. Okay, that's it. So in the domain 2, there is some changes we have, but there is a not lot of changes, but still there are some changes. For example, we have a data flows. Okay, there is a new topic added called as data flow. Data flow is not a different topic. Like let's say in the domain 2, we already discuss about the cloud data lifecycle, like from the process of creating the data to storing the data, from using the data to sharing the data to archiving data to destroying data. We are already discussing the process of how the data lifecycle is working. But when the data is working, or when the data is basically entering different states, how the data is flowing from one location to another, or the how the data flow happens, is what we call as a data flows in this particular module. Then the module 2, I mean the module 2 in domain 2 remains the same, like we have the same common things only. And the domain 3 only, I mean in the module 3 only, there is some changes which I felt. That is, we were discussing about keys for a long time. This is a very important topic which is always we discussing, but they have added something called as a secrets and certificate management. Like this was not there in the previous curriculum. Now they want you to understand the secrets and certificate management, like what is a certificate management, what are the key factors you have to keep in mind while using a trusted certificates and all these things. Okay, that's about. And in the case of a data discovery, they have basically added something called as a semi-structured data. It's a really interesting thing, team. Semi-structured data. So what do you mean by semi-structured data? I'll give an example. When you say the word called as a structured data, what do you mean by that? When you say structured data, you're talking about the database, right? This is basically talking about the database. And team, tell me how the data in the database is organized. Anyone? How we basically organize the data in the database? Okay.
So it's basically structure one is the SQL one, and
Yeah.
unstructured one in the, probably you can take
Yeah.
an example of Cosmo
Okay.
DB.
Fine. This is about the tables and columns, right? Tables, rows and columns, right? This is what we do in the structured data. But at the same time, there is a word called as unstructured. Like for example, you are storing a lot of data, like big data, etc. You're storing a lot of data, like presentations, Word documents, books, PDFs, videos. That is what we call as unstructured data. But there is a new word called as a semi-structured. It's a comparatively new thing called as a semi-structured data. That is a very important point in the exam now. Semi-structured data means that, team, it is not a complete structured data, and it's not a complete unstructured data. When you say the word semi-structured data, it means that we are storing the data in a particular format, like a JSON code. Okay, like I can show you a very interesting example here, team. See this. This is a very interesting picture I have seen. Give me a second. This is a simple example for a semi-structured data. See this, like your JSON code, your XML code, or maybe your YAML code. So the code, like this kind of code, is basically, this is basically what we call as a semi-structured data. So it's a key value pair, it's a key value thing, but the thing is that it's not exactly a table row format or table or column format like the structured data, but it's more like a JSON code or XML code, or let's say YAML, etc. That is what we call as a semi-structured data. That is basically added as a part of this new curriculum. Okay, that is what I felt. It's a very important topic which they have added. And there is one more thing which they have specified in this particular the new update, that is data location. Data location means that it's already there in the curriculum, because whenever you talk about a data, the data residency requirements is a very important thing, where the data must reside, or what all controls we have to apply for the data, and that is they have specifically added this as it as a module. That's all. Then rest, almost everything is same only team. There is not much difference in the domain 2. Okay, like rest of the topics are almost same. There is not much difference in the domain 2. Then we have something called as a domain 3. In the domain 3 of its examination team, they have made some changes. Okay, in the domain 3, the key changes are, okay, let's say there is a word called as design resilient. So they want you to understand the importance of designing a data center or designing an infrastructure which is fault tolerant and completely resilient. So how do I make it resilient by default? Resiliency by design, how to make it resilient by design, like for example, how to make sure there is a proper failure tactics, how to make sure that you have a backup for every devices, how to make sure that the process continue without interruption. That is what we call as a design resilient. Okay, that is something which they have added to the curriculum. And in this domain 3, I have not seen anything else which is more specifically added. But still, this particular topic also plays a very important role. It's always there in the previous curriculum also, but I have seen that this domain is also very interesting to learn. It's easy also. And then we have a domain 4. So in the domain 4 is what we call as a cloud application security. I don't know why team, but still in the domain 4 is the one which I felt that they had some very serious changes they want to know. Okay, there are some very serious changes which they want you to make in this domain 4, or the whole changes what I felt in the CCSP examination is focused more on this domain 4. I don't know why, but still that's what I felt. So out of the in this particular thing team, uh, we have specifically added you to learn the common cloud vulnerabilities. So the OWASP is already there. OWASP is basically already there. You have to learn the OWASP top 10, but they have added one more thing called as a SANS top 25. Like the OWASP, the SANS organization has defined a list of vulnerabilities called as a SANS top 25. They added this particular topic additionally. That's the only thing in this particular module. Okay. Now, in this particular thing team, the next one is they have added some more things like the phases. That's already there, the same phases in this thing. And then we have the apply the secure software development lifecycle. This is a module where we have a lot of changes. That means that when you go for a existing curriculum in CCSP, what we do is when you talk about the word called as threat modeling, we were having something called as a stride model, and sometimes they will ask you what is a dread model. That's all. So these are the two things which was there in the existing curriculum. But when you go to the new curriculum in August 2022, they have added some few more things like the threats and threat sorry this ATASM and the pasta also. These two things were additionally added. So the stride and dread were already there in the previous curriculum as well, but this particular thing called as ATASM and pasta is additionally added to the curriculum. It's a kind of threat model, that's all. And most importantly, this is a very important thing which they have added. Okay, so they have added a concept called a safe code. Safe code is an organization team. Safe code is an organization which basically provides the standards. Okay, like for example, what we can say, the full form is like this. I think the full form is yeah, the software assurance forum for excellence in the code. So it's a kind of very global industry which basically provides the best practices for developing and delivering a effective, secure, and reliable software. Okay, that's the goal of a safe code. So they want you to understand what is safe code, plus they want you to understand what is an application security verification standard. That's all. Okay, those topics are almost the same in the previous and the existing ones. Then we have something called as a software composition analysis. Okay, this in the next module, what I have felt is that there is something called as a software composition analysis. Okay, it's a comparatively new topic, but still we study the SAST and DAST, right? Basically what happens in the existing curriculum, what we do is you will study something called as a SAST and DAST, like static application security testing and dynamic application security testing. But there is a word called a software composition analysis, which will identify the open source components in the software. Like for example, you're developing a software. In the software which you have developed, okay, in the software which you have developed, It's a kind of application security testing, but still, when you go for a software composition analysis, it is a tool which will help you to identify the open source components or the license components and all these things in a code. Like for example, let's say you are using a proprietary thing, or if you're using a open source thing in a code, you'll be able to easily identify it with the help of a software composition analysis. What is used in this code? Okay, that is something which they have added additionally to this curriculum. And there is a word called as a abuse case testing team. That's also is added, abuse case testing. So what do you mean by abuse case testing team? When you say the word abuse case testing, it means that it's the same concept which is basically there by default. But specifically when you say the word abuse case testing, it means that it is about the impact on the code. Like for example, let's say what happens if there is an attack happen to the code, or when there is an attack happen to the code, how it can affect the infrastructure, or how it can basically affect the application's integrity, and all these things are what called as a abuse case testing. That also is a very important thing which is there. Then the rest of the top modules, I guess it's the same only. Okay, and they have specifically added this particular thing, but it's already there in the previous curriculum as well. Securing the APIs, because securing the API is a very important thing. Why? Because in the cloud platform, everything you're running is on APIs. So I'll give an example. Now you go to a cloud platform, you are developing an application for the cloud platform. For any requirements you are having, you are communicating with all these things with the help of APIs. I'll give you a simple example for this team. Let's say you go to a cloud platform. Will you be able to see what is happening in the cloud platform team? Are you interacting directly with the cloud infrastructure? Are you interacting directly with the cloud infrastructure when you go for a cloud platform? No, right? You are not interacting directly with it. You are just accessing some services. You click on something in the services, you are able to access it. So who is basically doing the process in the backend for you? It's done by somebody called as a API. So in the cloud platform, whatever things you're doing, you are making something called as a API request. That is what we call as securing the application programming interfaces. Then in the next module in this particular domain, they have added something called as a like this WAF, DAM, and all these things are already there. Only they have specified this microservice and content. That's all. It's already there in the curriculum. You have to learn it, especially this serverless computing and this infrastructure as a code and all. But still, they have specified it. That's the only thing. But still, these topics are exactly there. Okay. And all the topics, other topics is remaining unchanged in the domains 4 of the CCSP examination. And then we have a domain 5. This is the domain where there is a they have reduced 1%. Okay, so in this particular domain, I have not seen any changes happening to this. Almost everything in this domain is same only, like the TPM module, the HSM, the hypervisor types, and all the process. Almost everything in this domain is remain unchanged. There's no changes I have seen in this domain. Okay, it's the routine same only. And then we have something called as a domain 6, which is basically called as a legal risk and compliance. In the domain 6, which is called as legal risk and compliance, they have this, that also is basically very common. But still, what I have felt is that they have given some more importance. By reading some blogs and all, I have felt is that they have given some importance to this thing called as a privacy impact assessment. Why? Because you know that nowadays almost every organization is having something called as a privacy requirements. Every country is developing their own privacy requirements and all these things, right? As we have multiple organizations and multiple countries who is focusing on privacy, what happens? Or people are more worried about privacy nowadays. So there is a very important process called as a privacy impact assessment to see that how much data confidentiality and privacy which can be offered by the cloud service provider. Okay, that is something which is a very important topic which they have additionally focused on. Except that everything in the CCSP examination remains unchanged. Okay, that's it. So now before I go to the exam preparation strategy team, do you have any doubts, team? Any queries in this? Tell me. Any queries you have in the exam preparation strategy? Anything?
Hi, Krish.
Tell me.
Uh, I would like to know any books or the reference that will contain the information as per this the
Updated
contents.
thing. Okay.
exactly as per the contents that you have explained, right? Each and every
Okay.
chapter.
Okay. So there are a few more things. Like for example, when you go for a CCSP examination, the current curriculum is revised on the August of 2019. So you can find a lot of books for this particular thing called as August 2019. For this, there is something called as a CCSP CBK. I'll say that it's a very good book for reading because it is the common body of knowledge which covers everything literally. It's a really good book, the CCSP CBK third edition. Then we have a CCSP all-in-one. Then we have a CCSP official study guide. Uh, uh, then like this, we have a CCSP for dummies. There are many books when you go for this particular curriculum. But as the new curriculum called as August 2022, this is the yet to release thing. That's why there's as of now there is no active books for that. But I will tell you a very simple way for doing it. So you can basically use the same books itself, but more than books, you can for the specific topics which is not there in the existing textbooks, you can refer to the internet. Like you can basically Google it, you will be able to find a lot of interesting articles on it. That's enough for the examination perspective. And why it is not so important for us team, because IC Square expect that you are having the working experience in all these things. That's the only reason which they are delaying this textbook also. But anyway, by August 2022 itself, you will be having new books. But as of now, there is no new books as per this particular new curriculum. All the books are covering the existing curriculum only. Okay, that's it. Okay, does the CCSP covers basics? No, see the CCSP certification. What my recommendation is that this is my recommendation team. There is a recommendation by IC Square. See this, if you want to go for a CCSP examination, as per the IC Square, you must have a 5 years of experience in IT minimum. It's mandatory. Okay, this is a mandate thing that you must have a 5 years of uh, paid working experience in IT, out of which you must have a 3 years experience in information technology and one year experience in any domains of the CCSP. But it's mandatory. Okay, what happens if you appear for the examination without this experience? If you appear for the examination without this experience also, it's also possible. The only difference is that you will not get the CCSP certification. You will get something called as a associate of IC Square certification. After that, you can have 6 years to show your, or you can have a 5 years or 6 years to show your experience. That's all. But what my recommendation is that team, if you before going for CCSP, it's a very good idea that you must have a good knowledge in at least one cloud service provider platforms like either AWS or Azure or GCP or any cloud platform. It is very good if you can have a knowledge in this, because you will be able to understand something or you will be able to pass the exam maybe, but still if you want to get the things in the real time, like more than exam, it's the skills which you have to acquire, right? So for that process, I strongly recommend it's mandatory for you to have at least one cloud provider knowledge. Don't ask me which one, because every cloud service provider is good. Everyone is basically following the same strategy only. So because of that, I suggest go for at least one cloud platform knowledge, then go for CCSP. That will work much more better. Okay, that's it.
Krish, a very small doubt. For
Tell me.
anyone who doesn't have hands-on experience of
Okay.
5 years and all, but has cloud knowledge. So
Okay.
if we go the path like there are many other vendor neutral certifications. Let us take
Okay.
Cloud Plus as an example,
Okay.
CCSK as an example. So do
Okay.
you suggest that path to Cloud Plus first, CCSK
uh
second, and then go to CCSP?
okay, what I can tell you is that that is a different thing. So basically cloud plus is a very good certification for sure, but still from your question, it's a different perspective. What I recommend is that first you plan for learning one cloud platform, anything, let it be anything, cloud platform. Then if you don't have an experience, I recommend you go for something called as a CCSK certification. CCSK certification is basically by the Cloud Security Alliance. The main reason I'm telling you to go for certification is that whatever topics which you find in this particular CCSP is defined in a more tactical perspective. The same thing in CCSK also. Like those people who study CCSK and then if they go for CCSP, they will find almost every topic similar only in a more little bit deeper perspective. That's the only difference. So I recommend you go for a cloud platform first, then CCSK. You can then go for CCSP. And even there is one advantage also. If you pass the CCSK examination, you can get 1 year VWare in the CCSP experience as well. And now there is a new certification also there in the market, which is by the EC Council called as a CCSC, like certified cloud security angel. That's a certification there that you can basically go for it also. Fine. Any other queries you have, team? Okay, if you're planning for a exam before August, completely the old existing curriculum is fine for it. But if you're planning for it in a doing it after August 2022, it's always the new curriculum will be active. Okay, that's it. Like if you're learning it now or within the next few days, it's fine to learn the old one. But if you're learning it after like say May or June, then I prefer you learn the new one, because after May or June, if you want to plan for learning something, I prefer you learn the latest one, plus so that you can basically write the exam on time. That's it. Any other queries, team, you have? Any other queries you have, team? Anything else? Anyone? So
Could you
the
repeat the one last statement which you said? If you want to prepare exam before August 22,
yeah,
then
you
it
can
is
write the
better to
old
go.
curriculum. You can write the existing curriculum.
Okay, okay. Got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
and if you want to do it after August or like from August, you have to follow the new curriculum. That's the only thing. But that's my recommendation, that you till May, let's say till June, you can basically learn the old curriculum. That is enough. And from June onwards, it's only the new thing. So team, don't worry about the new and old. Only there is only a very few difference, which is basically added up. Except that things are always same only. So the concept will never change. The technology will be only advancing. So basically, what happens is that you learn the old one, plus you just add something to the what you learned. That is enough for the new thing. That's all. Okay, that's it.
The
The
sequence
exam
of
fee as of now.
implementation which you proposed without cloud-based experience. First, you
Okay.
proposed one cloud-based cloud provider knowledge, then CCSK you asked, right?
No,
What
that is for one person I told, but still it's based on the different. It's based on the person and the type of experience he's having. So team, so for your learning path, like if you're asking me for your learning path, I would suggest we can have a call, because the reason is because if you this is my number. The reason is because if you go for a let's say default learning path, it will not work for most of you, because it's different for different people. Like for example, let's say if I'm not having any experience in cloud security or any experience in cloud, then I will tell you a different path. Or maybe if you have some experience in the information security but not cloud, like it's all about the the different skills you're having. So I recommend that we can have a call on this, and then we can discuss about this particular thing personally, one-on-one. Okay, that's a different thing.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
No, completely fine. And team, there's one more thing to add up with this. Okay, when you're preparing for CCSP, I have seen that many people ask me this point that, so Krish, will we be able to get some dumps for CCSP? First, the point is that team, understand that for CCSP or CISSP or any certification like this, there's nothing called as a dumps, brain dumps. But if you go for AWS, Azure, etc., you may get it. But still, for CCSP and all these things, the dumps or any kind of these kind of actual exam questions are never available in the market. So if somebody is trying to tell you that they will give you the actual exam questions in CCSP and all, I don't know if it's how much it's genuine. That's the only thing. And the next thing is that if you want to pass the examination, it's not about reading the textbooks 100 times only. If you want to pass the examination, the only thing is that you must understand what exactly is this concepts. Like for example, let's say you know that uh, what is a SLA. You know what is a SLA, but what you have to understand is that how this SLA can be beneficial in the cloud platform, or what is the key role of the SLA in the cloud platform, or what are the challenges you may face if there is no proper SLA. That is what you have to learn. So you have to learn the perspectives. That's the only thing. Like let's say DevSecOps. When I say DevSecOps, I don't want you to learn the whole tools and all these things. But DevSecOps, how the process works in the company, or what all challenges we can face. That's what we have to learn. Okay, so try to learn in a conceptual perspective, in a more of a management perspective, and then if you write the exam, it's a very high chance you will pass the exam. Okay, that's it. Any other queries, team? Any other queries you have? Anything? Any other queries, team? And hardly team, it will take like once you if you're planning for a training in CCSP, or if you're planning for a self-learning, it's completely fine. It can take up to 1 to 2 months maximum. So if you do a systematic process for doing this, it will be very easy for you to pass the exam. But the thing is that you must be able to correlate things and understand the concepts. For example, when I say the word called as semi-structured data, now you understand this, team, right? If you go for a structured, you're talking about database kind of things. If you go for unstructured, you're talking about random data. This is like a piece code like that, right? So you must be able to map the questions. And I have seen that in the ISSQL examinations, the questions are mostly scenarios. Like they will give you a scenario, or they will give you they will ask you a recommendation, or they will ask you what is a best practice like that. So only if you know the concepts clearly, you will be able to get all these things in a proper perspective as expected. Okay, so that is the recommendation from my side, team. Uh, any other queries, team?
Yeah, I have one question. So you touched very good point regarding the dumps.
Okay,
Though I'm not looking any dumps or anything, but if you read the ISC2 forums and all,
okay.
everybody suggests about the boson.
Okay,
Uh,
that is only for CISSP. That is what I this is my, and what I'm talking about is only my personal perspective. For CISSP, I felt that Boson is a very good reference for that. But for CCSP, I have not found it's completely good, but still it's a good to have. That's all. Okay.
okay, yeah. So like from your side,
No,
like
I don't.
we can
No, no.
go ahead.
But you have a, see, you have a official practice test. That is good. You can get some sample question in the internet. That's enough. That's enough for understanding the question pattern. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, then team, is it good for job perspective? Okay, see, basically when talk about a certification, many people think that, okay, which is tougher, CISSP or CCSP. What I personally felt is that, team, CCSP is a bit more tougher than CISSP. The perspective may be different for different people, but still, when I first came to this particular thing, what I felt is that it was a bit tough, little bit tough on the CSSP, because they are focusing on some key technologies only. That's why it's a bit more, stringent. But yes, it is easy if you understand the concepts very clearly. That's the only thing. And if, okay, whether if you go for CCSK or CCSP, when you say CCSK or CCSP, what I recommend is a team. It's not like that. Both are having its own values. Like if you are a person who want to just to get a cloud security certification, plus if you want to get knowledge in the cloud security architecture and all, the easiest thing is a CCSK. But if you want to go in depth, plus if you want to get like more in depth knowledge on the management aspects, you can go for CCSP. It's a more of a strategic certification. And the market demand is varying based on the locations. Like for example, in India it's different, in US it's different, for in different countries it's different actually. Okay.
And both are all ISA square exam, right?
No, no.
CCSK.
No. CCSK is basically by a body called as a Cloud Security Alliance. It's it's an open book exam. We have a second shot for the exam, and the materials for the CCSK is available free of cost in the internet. Like if you want to have a CCSK examination materials, just type CCSK study material. See, if you search for it, you will get the complete materials free of cost from the website. This is the link for it for CCSK. You'll get the whole kit if you just fill this form, and you will get it. But at the same time, if you go for CCSP, it is only having one shot. You will not be able to rewrite the exam if you fail the exam. If you go for CCSK, you have one more second shot offer is there, and the exam cost is less in CCSK, like it's $395 US. For CCSP, it's basically $600 US plus tax as of now. That's about the
Thank you.
difference, team. Yep. And team, I request all of you to fill a feedback form of this event. Please fill the feedback form. You will get the certificate for it.
Yeah, one
Yes, of
last
course.
question.
Yeah, Karthik.
So
Yeah,
if,
yeah. Tell me.
if we have completed the CCSP, then what I understood, no, there's no need to go for CCSK, right?
Never, never. See, if you have complete CCSP, but I don't personally recommend you can go for CCSK. But very rarely I have seen that. Only for one or two candidates which I had trained. Some of the companies specifically ask for CCSK. That's all. But still, in 99% cases, when you complete CCSP, that is much more good to have. That's enough. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. And yeah, domain 3 is talking about, yeah, definitely yes. It will cover the concept of hypervisor, what is a bare metal, and all these things. Yes, yes, it'll cover that.